For sure, I'm the luckiest person on the planet because today I have Craig Loundas with me. For those of you who might have missed it, my interview with Craig last year is and still is to today, the top ranked episode of all Office Flip Flop time. So I had to bring him back because he's such a wealth of love and inspiration. Craig, please remind the guest who you are today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Craig Loundas. I am the Associate Vice President for the Penn Medicine experience at Penn Medicine. And in my prior life, Francesca and I, we worked together. I was the Dean of Students at Widener University, where she was an awesome student leader and resident assistant.
Well, thank you. And, you might not think that somebody would remember that, but Craig has an incredible memory. And we were just talking about that in the green room. Like when the last time we did this, he remembers everything. Your level of detail, Craig, is mind blowing. So for those who know you, they are not going to disagree. But we decided to talk about something pretty interesting today, didn't we?
We did, yes. So kind of, it's funny, but if you want to call it like talking with strangers, but it's funny. I recall, as a Dean of Students, back when you were there, Francesca, at Widener, and I would talk to parents in orientation. And I would say to them, you've told your kids all along not to talk to strangers. And now you're going to be dropping your kid off at college and you're going to say to them, have you met anybody? And, how do you actually learn to connect with people? And actually, on the college campus, it's a lot, it's different. People come there and they're excited and they want to meet people. But kind of what I want to talk about today a little bit around is just kind of like, what are those moments of people that we may never see again, that we can connect even for 2 or 3 minutes, or maybe we do see them again, but it's really in a way that would be safe,
Right.
to really kind of the power of meeting people that you don't normally talk to.
And I love that so much, Craig, because today I know I am craving connectivity, right? We had a little bit of a hiatus because of the pause, but we couldn't have that human in-person interaction. And in the episode that you and I recorded together, you offered some great tips on how to do it virtually. Now we're offering additional ways to do it in person, which I think is just us being authentic, genuine selves. So in fact, my friends, I should mention that Craig did even some research because we know he's right, but it's always great to back our conversations with research. So talk to me a little bit about what you found in that research, Craig.
So there's a great article that was in the Atlantic that's called The Surprising Benefit of Talking to Strangers, right? And just that, the results of the research tells us that talking with strangers can make us happier, more connected to our communities, mentally sharper, healthier, less lonely, and more trustful and optimistic. It's funny. Last night I was walking my dog in Ocean City, and I ended up taking a route I don't normally take, just kind of trying to jazz it up a little bit. And I was walking down 2nd and Simpson in Ocean City, and this house had a Widener flag on it. And there was an older woman, and I would say that, at me being 63, I would say she's probably in her 80s. And she was on her front porch, and I had my dog, and she said, hello. And I said, hey, are you a Widener family? And she said, my granddaughter just graduated. And so we talked for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. She thought my dog was cute. We ended up saying, what a great experience she had at Widener about being on a smaller campus. And I said, I wish your granddaughter well. And she said, maybe I'll see you again. And, off I went down to keep walking. But I think those are the kind of things. And I came back to my house and was telling my wife that this had happened. So just kind of, it goes back to that little bit of endorphin, like just having the connection. And certainly, sometimes I think we tend to keep our heads down, and this whole article talks about just basically being open to what you see. And I'll give you just even an example from today. So every Monday, we run a new employee orientation program for Penn Medicine, typically between 50 and 150 employees who are brand new starting that day. And you probably can guess, Francesca, when people arrive early on the earliest side, guess what they take out when they sit down in their seats? They take out their
coffee
and
their
devices.
Device, they're smart, right? And they're smart devices, right?
And they're sitting there by themselves, and everyone kind of comes in. So I am part of the leadership team for that program. And I just walk in, I'm like, why don't you just go ahead and meet somebody new today? And people end up, and I think they almost need sometimes permission to do that. And I get it sometimes, like if I am waiting for something, I'll take out my phone and I'll look and see what's happening in the news. But I think sometimes it becomes a little bit of just kind of a, to say a crutch, but a behavior that you would have in terms of being able, rather than interacting with somebody. Because I think we have gone through this time in the pandemic where we haven't really been, catching up as much in
Right.
person. So,
Right.
it's fun to do that. And I think that's where it does definitely give you that sense of connection with people.
Right. I feel like we've had to relearn this behavior, right, Craig? Because, like you said, the first thing we do, and in fact, someone who I recently interviewed, he said pretty much the same thing, kind of like when we look down, we have a closed body language, right? And it doesn't seem as if we would be easy to get along with. So let's look up and open up. And
Right.
then we appear more friendly just from that posture change,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it's not like this isn't really like a new thing. Like,
Right.
that's my grandmother, who died before I was born. She was a Swedish immigrant. She was a housekeeper. And she would take the bus from 69th Street out to um, her, clients saying it fancy, her homeowners' homes to clean their houses.
Right.
And my dad would say that she would make a friend on the bus every day, and this is
Oh,
in the 40s and 50s, right? So part of this isn't really new, but I think sometimes it's a little bit around like, are we making an intentional decision to say, you know what, I'm going to talk to somebody? We were, um, chatting earlier about just even like waiting in line in Starbucks and making having a compliment to the barista and having something that's the way you're making that person's day a little more interesting and vice versa.
right.
I'm nursing a broken thumb and I have a little splint on my hand. And I was at Wawa just last Wednesday, and cashier said to me, "How's your hand feeling?" I mean, the cashier I didn't know, and I said, "Oh, actually,
Wow.
I graduated from a cast to a splint. I'm doing really well, thanks." He's like, "Oh, it looks like it hurts." It took no effort. He kept cashiering. I kept buying my coffee. It took no more time, but it's
Right.
memorable. And I think
Yeah.
we're, in the world that I work in at Penn Medicine, we hope then that our employees are making those same kind of connections. People come to us because we have, best in the world clinical care, but it's the
Mhm.
friendly person at the front desk. It's the physician that asks you how your drive-in was. It is somebody complimenting you on a piece of clothing or jewelry that we
Right.
know kind of makes a better connection with our patients and families.
It's human, and it's how, and I'm listening to you with these fantastic examples in the coffee line. I love to do that, talking with the barista. In fact, I shared with you that I make really good friends with my barista. I even ask for their cell phone number so we can stay in touch if it's always the same person,
Right.
right? So we build relationships very quickly. Um, and it's such a great endorphin building feeling, right? Because then you just carry on for the rest of the day
Right.
with that generous feeling,
Yeah.
right?
It is. Again, sometimes sometimes they do repeat sometimes, and sometimes they
Mm.
might be a one time only. And I'll tell you a really like touching for me repeat story is that um, in the crazy year of 2020, one of my sons was very ill and was in the hospital several times, and is doing fine now, in case he's listening. But he had been readmitted through the emergency room, and
Mm.
so I went to see him, and this was during tough times during COVID of really restricting visitation. And he's like, "Oh, can you go to my house and get my phone charger for me?" Right. So this was at night. I left the hospital. I drive back to my son's house. I meet his fiance. She gives me the phone charger. I come back to the hospital. There's a security guard there, and I'm in plain clothes. I'm not looking like I work there.
Right,
And I
right.
said to the security guard, I'm like, I had to run home and get my son's charger. He needs it. I'm so sorry. He's been having some complications from surgery, and the security guard was like, "You're good. Go ahead, bring it to him." And so then, like 2 days later, I'm coming back from the hospital on a Sunday. I think I probably have jeans and a t-shirt on, and the same security guard says to me, "How's your son?"
Oh,
Just like makes you just want to, gets tears to your eyes. But it just kind of, and I said, "You've got a great memory." He said, "Well, I remember talking to you, and he ended up telling me a little bit about a personal story with him with some health history and how he had gotten through, and basically gave me a pep talk. Keep in mind, he didn't know that I worked at Penn Medicine. And
wow.
just to,
That's
and of course, and I've seen him maybe 2 times since then in the past couple of years. And I've said to him, "You're great at what you do." And he's like, "It's just," but he said, "It makes my job easier if I remember people and their journeys." And this is a young guy working as a security guard. And he said he loves the interactions. The same thing around, it's not just good for us, it's good for the other person too, because it's
mm,
it's making some connections. And I think, at a time when you're having to enforce visitation policies in a hospital, to be able to kind of connect with people makes his endorphin kick in too.
Right? I love these positive, like what an incredible story of light that this person serves, right? Sometimes, we demean our positions because it's not like, doesn't have a fancy title, but you just proved to me it doesn't matter, right? The energy is what matters, and the paying attention and the awareness. Like, yeah, it does bring tears to your eyes when you go back and you're like, wow, he remembered me. That's
Yeah,
so cool. Because you know what, Craig, we do want to be seen and be heard, right? We're human. So let's just embrace that and, carry on with our theme of
right.
talking to strangers, right? So, you know, coffee line, grocery store line, wherever there's people now, because we're all out again. Yay.
Right.
Right?
It's really kind of like this, like, it's kind of like a hidden source of like belonging and happiness, right? That you can actually create that, you're creating it one moment. And I don't want people to be listening, going like, wow, you know, if I'm riding the subway for 2 stops, do I need to say hello to somebody? No, we're not saying, we're not
Right.
saying that, but it's looking at the time and the place. And I don't know whether I typically am not an airplane talker with my
Mm,
seatmate. Like I wouldn't say that's my regular thing to do, but I've had some really great conversations with people on
sure.
airplanes. And just, whether it's small talk or with sports teams, or ended up sitting with a guy flying to Florida who was, it's funny, he ordered a cocktail at 10 o'clock in the morning on the plane. This
Boy.
is, and he said to me, like, he's like, I'm really a nervous flyer. And
Oh,
I'm so sorry. Don't think less of me. And we ended up like talking the whole way. We're talking about, he worked in lawn care. We talked about lawns, when we got to Florida, he's like, you made my trip so much easier just by making small talk because I hate to fly. Yeah, and it wasn't, but it was my normal way to do things. But like we had a lot of fun. So I think there's ways that you've got to figure out for yourself what is the time and the place. Like,
what is the time? Yeah,
you know, the barista doesn't want to have a 5-minute conversation with you when the line's long behind you, right? But you can
exactly. Yeah.
create moments, and sometimes those moments are repetitive over time. Sometimes it might just be one thing you do. So it's just a matter of knowing time and place, and and having keeping your eyes open, putting your cell phone down, and having a conversation.
I love that so much, because my next quick question for you is, as you lift these people, like this person on the plane who was nervous, doesn't it lift you too?
Right?
That's
Yeah.
the reciprocity, right? That's this beautiful circle that we're explaining here, is as we share with others, it comes back and it
Right.
lifts
And look
us
at
as well.
right. It helps improve your own mood as well, right? And I think, like I think everyone has a story. We don't always know everyone's story, but we get bits and pieces of it, right? So so perhaps next time I'm, walking my dog, there's people that you can chat with and you learn a little bit about them, and I think that makes your world a little bigger.
Oh, well, I love this so much. And, you know, in all of these great travels, my friend, do you have like a particular piece of clothing or accessory? How does it make you feel? Like your favorite?
Oh,
Like what really resonates with you?
this will warm your heart because it goes back to Italy. But my wife and I were in Florence in 2017 with a group of friends, and we were in this store and they had these awesome leather jackets, and we looked at each other. We're like, come on, like this is my first time in Florence. So we bought similar but not matching leather jackets. Hers is actually burgundy, mine's blue, but you feel like that extra little bit of oomph when you put it on. So I don't wear it all the time, but it's just kind of like a fun piece to put on and has a little bit of a story behind it.
I bet. And I bet that leather feels like butter. Like
Yeah,
it's probably so smooth. Am I right? I'm going to have to meet that jacket someday, Craig, and Dana's
exactly.
as well. I'll make a special trip um to your home. But this has just been, I feel enlightened just having this conversation with you. I feel lighter. But if someone wanted to continue the conversation with you, Craig, where's the best place for them to find you and connect with you?
So probably LinkedIn is the best way. And it's Craig Loundas, Loundas. I am the only one on there for sure. So you can go ahead and connect through LinkedIn. I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Well, your conversations are always so great. So I'll be sure to put that in the show notes for everyone. I think you're incredible. I love you. I love your stories. And I thank you for your time today, Craig.
Okay, thanks. Great talking to you, Francesca. Thanks.
Always.